Hello students, in our previous lecture, previous video, we have learned many terms regarding congestive heart failure. So which are those terms? Let me summarize. Preload, wherein your heart is loaded, your ventricle, basically left ventricle is loaded with some amount of blood previously, that is called as preload at the end of diastole. Then there is afterload, which is dependent upon the peripheral vascular resistance. Then myocardial contractility, which is again a deciding parameter on your heart's force of contraction. Then ejection fraction, amount of blood given out in the systole. Stroke volume, similar to ejection fraction, what is the volume which is given out per stroke. Peripheral vascular resistance or systemic vascular resistance, which is basically resistance offered by arterioles for flow of blood. Then edema or congestion, integral part of congestive heart failure, that is congestion. So we discussed it is cardiopulmonary edema. Then bradycardia, which is decrease in the frequency of heart rate, and tachycardia, which is increase in the frequency of heart rate. So we have learned quite a lot, quite a few terms in the previous video. So what is expected from your side is you have to complete this table. Okay, I'll be sharing this PPT. You have to complete this table and you have to mail it back to me. And of course, there will be a quiz which will be conducted based on this. It will be an online quiz. So now the question can be why congestion is accompanied when we talk about congestive heart failure. So imagine a normal condition wherein a person meets an accident. So there is a lot of blood loss which leads to decrease in blood volume. Decrease in blood volume will lead to decrease in blood pressure because blood volume is directly proportional to blood pressure. Because of decrease in blood pressure, your body starts taking measures to increase the blood pressure, right? Always there is a feedback mechanism. So to increase the blood pressure, what happens? Your arterioles constrict. There are many mechanisms which brings vasoconstriction. Because of vasoconstriction, the blood pressure increases. Now what happens? Because blood is flowing with very high pressure in your arteries, lot of fluid gets leaked from the arterioles. So there is increase in the interstitial fluid, the fluid which is in the gaps. And that leads to build-up of fluid in lungs and limbs, basically. Lower limbs, edema is very common. So what happens now? This is your alveoli. So at normal condition, this is your pulmonary capillary, okay, and this is your alveolar membrane. So this is your respiratory membrane, wherein carbon dioxide and oxygen transport occurs or transfer occurs. Now this is normal. What happens when there is congestion? See, there is a fluid filled in your alveoli. Because of this fluid fill, of course, there will be hindrance in the carbon dioxide and oxygen transfer. And that is how it will affect. So that is pulmonary edema. So this is the concept of pulmonary edema. See, no one is going to ask you the pathophysiology of congestive heart failure or all these definitions. But in order to understand the treatment, I feel it is very important that you understand the pathophysiology and you recall it very well. Okay. So let's go ahead with the treatment now. So when I talk about the treatment approaches, last time we had discussed some treatment goals. That is, we need to either decrease the fluid volume. So we will be able to address the congestion problem. We should be able to decrease the peripheral vascular resistance. Then we will be able to address some problem. Okay. So we will one by one see now which are the drugs. So initially we just enlist the drugs. So the treatment approaches or treatments used for congestive heart failure are: first is ACE inhibitor. The full form of ACE is angiotensin convertase enzyme inhibitors. Okay, these drugs will always end with pril. So enalapril, captopril, fosinopril. See, in your question paper there are questions asked such that explain pharmacotherapy of enalapril or explain the pharmacology of enalapril. So first you need to remember what enalapril is, which class it belongs to. So when it ends with pril, it is ACE inhibitors. Then angiotensin receptor blockers. So angiotensin, what is common here? So of course, these two classes are related to renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay. So angiotensin receptor blockers, they will always end with sartan. Okay. So losartan, telmisartan. So if such word come, it will be angiotensin receptor blocker. We will discuss how they differ, what are the limitations or advantages or one over other, though they are affecting one single pathway. Next is beta adrenergic blockers. They are related to sympathetic system blocking, okay, and so basically beta receptor blocking. They always end with lol, okay, atenolol, carvedilol, metoprolol. So these are the examples of beta adrenergic blockers. Then diuretics. Diuretics are extremely useful in case of congestive heart failure. You remember congestion. So to decrease congestion, you need to decrease volume. Whenever there is a need to decrease volume of fluid inside your body, diuretics play very important role. So by now you will come to know that diuretics, though it looks like okay, they are just increasing sodium and water excretion, but their applications are very much wide. In case of hypertension they are used, in case of congestive heart failure they are used. Next is ionotropic agents. So ionotropic word indicates something which is going to enhance force of contraction. So it is directly going to act on myocardial cells and it is going to enhance the force of contraction. So pushing force by ventricles during systole, that is improved by digoxin and dobutamine. So ionotropic agents always starts with D, digoxin, dobutamine. There are direct vasodilators I missed upon, okay. So direct vasodilators, so simply peripheral vascular resistance kam karna hai, right? So what you do to decrease the peripheral vascular resistance, you increase the diameter of the blood vessels. That can be helped with nitrates. So they are going to directly act on the endothelial cells and going to release some mediators which will cause vasodilation. And next is the last one, that is aldosterone antagonists. So here again, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone pathway. So of that pathway, these drugs are going to act on aldosterone receptors. If you remember this, spironolactone, okay. So the spelling is spironolactone. So spironolactone, do you remember spironolactone? We had discussed it lastly in the diuretic chapter. So we will recall that slightly when we will discuss each class one by one. So this is a classification of congestive heart failure. If you have understood the pathophysiology, you will be easily able to understand the classification. Okay, you can also make some mnemonic like ACE inhibitor, angiotensin receptor blocker, aldosterone antagonist. Then comes D, beta adrenergic blockers. Then comes D, diuretics and direct vasodilators. And then comes I. Okay, so that way you may remember the classification. Easy to remember. So before discussing ACE inhibitors or angiotensin receptor blockers or aldosterone antagonist, we will discuss renin angiotensin system first. Okay, what happens at the normal physiological condition with renin angiotensin aldosterone system? What exactly this entire system does? Okay, so that we are going to see now. Imagine there is a condition in your body which is leading to decreased blood pressure. Okay, again suppose person meets an accident. This is normal physiological feedback mechanism we are discussing. Okay, and once we understand renin angiotensin aldosterone system normal physiological mechanism, then we will see how we can manipulate this system and use it for the treatment of congestive heart failure. Okay, so current discussion, current slide does not tell you anything regarding congestive heart failure. It is just normal physiological mechanism of renin angiotensin aldosterone system. So let us start. There is decrease in blood pressure because of n number of reasons it can be. Okay, suppose very simple is your person has met an accident and because of that there is lot of blood loss. What happens? Blood volume decreases, so blood pressure decreases. Because of decrease in blood pressure, what happens is blood is always flowing through kidney, right? Kidney is highly perfused organ. So one of the outcome or one of the result of decreased blood pressure is decreased blood flow to kidneys. So the blood which is coming to kidneys via afferent arterioles will flow slowly, okay, with lesser rate. So this is happening. So initially it was coming very rapidly and now it starts coming very slowly into your kidneys via afferent arterioles. Because of this, what happens? The GFR, glomerular filtration rate, decreases. And also there is another factor, that is increase in the sodium reabsorption. So what happens? Why this? Of course, blood is coming with lower rate, so filtration rate is decreased. That is very much logical. So the filtrate enters in your renal tubule. Initially it is like this, very rapid. Fluid comes, filters, enters, and then goes like this. Now it is very slow. It comes, enters, filtration slowly. Slowly it is moving via your renal tubule. Because of this slow movement, what happens is your membranes, okay, renal membranes, nephron membranes, what happens? They get more time to absorb sodium. Now, why they do so? Why do they take more time to reabsorb sodium? Because always there is less fluid, okay? Now there is a less fluid which is moving at lesser rate. So sodium reabsorption becomes very much effective. So initially if 10 sodium ions were getting reabsorbed, with the altered condition, 20 will get reabsorbed. As a result, what will happen? The fluid which is entering in this distal part here will have lesser sodium. So low glomerular filtration rate, increased sodium reabsorption, and low sodium concentration at distal end of the nephron. These three are the consequences. Okay. Now what exactly this distal end of the nephron is having? If you see here, I have shown there are some cells attached to afferent arteriole. These three. There are some cells which are attached to distal membrane or distal convoluted tubule part. Okay. What are these? These cells together are called as juxtaglomerular apparatus. I hope you remember juxtaglomerular apparatus, which you have learned when you learned renal system, okay, kidneys or excretory system in your anatomy class, anatomy and physiology class. So this juxtaglomerular apparatus, which is called as, is made up of these cells. These are nothing but baroreceptors, receptors which are sensitive to pressure, and they are attached to arterioles. What is their function? What is happening now? Because there is low blood pressure, okay, the blood which is flowing through arteriole flows with the lower pressure. Baro is related to pressure. So these baroreceptors sense that the pressure of the blood flowing through efferent arterioles is less. Okay. And it reacts to it by secreting renin. Remember, renin. Okay. Then, so these are baroreceptors. Then there is a lot of sodium reabsorption occurring here. The fluid enters here, contains less sodium. That less sodium amount in the fluid, renal fluid, is sensed by these receptors, these cells. These are nothing but chemoreceptors because they are sensitive to chemical. Sodium is a chemical, right? Sodium ion. So what they sense, oh, there is very less sodium present here. Let me secrete more renin. Okay. And plus, in between these two, there are beta 1 receptors which receive sympathetic outflow because there is overall blood pressure decrease. So sympathetic system gets stimulated and they set these beta 1 receptors in action. So baroreceptors, beta 1 receptors, and your chemoreceptors, they all together start secreting renin, and this renin enters in blood. So now if you again come back here, I have summarized it here. Low blood pressure, low blood flow to kidneys, low GFR, more sodium reabsorption. It leads to stimulation of juxtaglomerular apparatus, okay, which is made up of baro and chemoreceptors and beta 1 receptors. Baro and chemo are receiving the inputs from renal region only. So these are intrarenal mechanisms for secretion of renin. Sympathetic, that is beta 1 receptors, are receiving signals from sympathetic stimulation. So that is extrarenal mechanism for secretion of renin. So overall, when juxtaglomerular apparatus is stimulated to release renin in blood, what this renin does? Renin enters blood and it causes conversion of angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Okay. So, just a second. Okay. So here, this renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2 with the help of angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay. So angiotensin convertase enzyme is very much important for conversion of this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Once angiotensin 2 is formed, it has got many functions. Angiotensin 2 is a potent vasoconstrictor. So what it will do? It will constrict the blood vessels. Blood vessels constrict, that leads to increase in blood pressure. So negative feedback mechanism. Input was decrease in blood pressure, output is increase in blood pressure. This is one action. And angiotensin 2 does it when it binds to angiotensin receptors. There are many types of angiotensin receptors in our body. Most widely studied are ARB1 and ARB2 or AT1 and AT2 receptors. Amongst that, AT1 receptors are responsible for vasoconstriction effect. So angiotensin 2, when binds to AT1 receptors, it causes vasoconstriction. This is one action. Angiotensin 2 also stimulates aldosterone release. Now, if you remember, aldosterone is a hormone which causes sodium reabsorption at collecting duct. If you are not able to recall it very properly now, you can refer to diuretics video, and there you can see the agents which are potassium sparing agents. How do they act? So there we have learned the entire role of aldosterone and how it exactly increases sodium reabsorption. So here you need to remember aldosterone causes increase in sodium reabsorption at collecting duct. Because there is increase in sodium reabsorption, what happens? Increase in water reabsorption. So increase in blood volume, increase in blood pressure. And simultaneous effect is it also increases potassium excretion and hypokalemia occurs. Okay. So these are the effects of angiotensin. So one effect, vasoconstriction, other effect, stimulate aldosterone release. Ultimately, everything is going to increase your blood pressure. And third effect, which is written here, is the angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, what it does, it causes conversion of bradykinin to kinin. Okay, so bradykinin, how this is important, that we will learn when we will discuss the drugs. Okay, the question is where exactly this angiotensin convertase enzyme is present. Do you know? It is present in your lungs. So exactly where in the lungs? If you see this capillary, it is lined with endothelial cells. At the surface of the endothelial cells, you will find ACE, that is angiotensin convertase enzyme. So I hope by now you have understood the entire renin, angiotensin, aldosterone pathway. Okay. So now people think about it. What can I do so that the ultimate goal of this renin, angiotensin, aldosterone pathway is to increase the blood pressure? And what has happened with my patient? With my patient, I have to decrease blood volume, I have to decrease blood pressure, right? My treatment goal for CHF. So can I manipulate this? Imagine, what if I inhibit synthesis of renin? Will I be able to inhibit this pathway? Yes. So direct renin inhibitors can be one strategy to lower down the blood pressure. If I inhibit action of angiotensin convertase enzyme, will the further chain of events stop? Yes. So I can do that. If I inhibit, okay, now angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2, fine. But what if I block the receptors? Will I be able to block the further pathway? Yes, I will be able to do it. Then stimulation of aldosterone release. What if I give some antagonist which will not allow aldosterone to act? Right? Again, I will be able to achieve my goal. So these are the treatment strategies which can be adopted based upon renin, angiotensin, aldosterone path. Okay. So in the next lecture, we will discuss how these strategies help and which are the drugs. Thank you.